Open the meeting with pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to note that we had a executive session prior to the meeting tonight for specific personnel items. We have a roll call, please.
Mrs. Bennett and Mr. Franco are absent. Mrs. Eckert?
Here.
Mrs. Goebel?
Here.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Here.
Dr. Frivola?
Here.
Mr. Burke?
Here.
Mr. Farr?
Here.
Mrs. Arnold?
Here.
Thank you. Superintendent Doherty.
Thank you.
You're up.
Thank you very much. Good evening, board. Good evening, Tiger community. It's hard to believe, but we are already midway through the school year. There's always this is a very exciting time of year. It's fun to talk with our seniors, especially, and see them so excited to talk about their what they're going to be doing next year and their college acceptance letters. You know, our district does such an outstanding job helping our students and preparing our students for success after graduation. We have seniors that have already been accepted into Notre Dame, Cornell, and even the Newhouse Communication School at Syracuse. Now, all of those three programs, for instance, they have acceptance rates of about 9 or 10%. We really do have elite students. Recently, we've had many high school students participate in FBLA, Skills USA, and PMEA competitions, and like usual, we had an extremely strong showing. In all three competitions, we had students win and move on to state-level competitions, so certainly congratulations and good luck to our students in the upcoming state events. Next month, we are planning on taking our meetings fully paper-free, which is a big step for our board. All of our documents and agendas will be available publicly via our website, and we're excited to reduce the significant amount of paper that is used each month for board meetings. I'm very excited to announce that we will be hosting this year's PMEA course program. In early February, we will have hundreds of students from other schools on our campus for a choral competition and concert. The event will culminate with a public concert in this auditorium right here on Friday, February 7th. On Thursday, February 6th, we will welcome Pennsylvania First Lady Lori Shapiro to our high school. One of our very talented teachers, Katie Wisnowski, wrote and was awarded a state grant for her program, Code Red. This state-funded program provides feminine hygiene products for our students in the intermediate center and high school. You know, Mrs. Wisnowski's program was started actually with a donation from the Tiger Fund for Excellence and was strengthened by the state grant. And we're hopeful that the visit by Mrs. Shapiro will help support future funding of this worthwhile program. And I'd like to personally thank Mrs. Wisnowski for running a program to benefit the young ladies in our schools. You know, this weekend we have a huge swimming and diving event on our campus. There will be 18 high schools and over 300 swimmers here competing this weekend. There will be swim races all day on Saturday, and on Sunday, the annual diving competition will be held. This is always such a great event. So please consider coming to the high school this weekend to support our Tigers. Just a reminder, there is no school for students tomorrow and Monday. Tomorrow is a teacher in-service day, and Monday is Dr. Martin Luther King Day. I hope our students and families have a very nice long weekend. Monday also happens to have a few other big events in addition to the federal holiday. It's also Inauguration Day. And Monday's other big event is something that a few of us on the stage are really looking forward to. So all I could say is, go Irish. Finally tonight, I'd like to thank local law enforcement, especially Corporal John Zdanowitz. Again this year, they supported so many of our families with their Cops for Christmas toy drive. The number of toys they collected through donations was overwhelming. It was very impressive. Many of our families and our students had a wonderful holiday due to the efforts of Corporal Zdanowitz and his colleagues. They are always looking to help the Tunkhannock community. We're so proud to support this beneficial program and be involved in it in a little piece. Last week we were given a certificate of appreciation, or a few weeks ago, from Corporal Zdanowicz, and I'd like to share this with the board tonight and ask Corporal Zdanowicz to come down, and maybe we could take a picture for him with the board and the certificate of appreciation. But
absolutely,
great job, Corporal Zdanowicz and his colleagues. So, Corporal, if you want to come down. Yep. Mrs. Frisco, will you take a picture for me?
Oh, jeez.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Nice catch. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, wrong one. Thought I bought a new jacket.
Wrong one.
And
Okay,
that's all I have tonight. Thank you very much.
thank you, Paul. Next item is public comments on agenda items only. Anyone that would like to speak must be a resident or taxpayer of the district, or a student or employee, and remarks are limited to 4 minutes. There will be a second public comment at the end of the meeting for anything else. Anyone?
Yeah.
Okay, you already have this sheet on tax collectors of what we're asking for, a raise.
Could you get closer to the mic, please?
Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you.
You have this sheet for our projected raise that we would like,
Yes.
okay? There's a lot of information on this thing that you have also made out that we're like, kind of don't understand a lot of it, because I don't think you understand some of our job. So one of them is, we had asked for 50 cents for the mailing, and that is for sending out the bills. That just doesn't mean we have to stuff them in the envelopes. We have to check and make sure addresses are changed, things that, pertain to each bill, that we make sure they're right and put them in the envelope, and this all takes time, and that's why we're asking for the 50 cents. And you wanted that off when we made the proposal, you wanted that taken off. So that just gives you an idea of why we put that in there. Okay, because it is.
If I could comment, it says that it's not a need, and I know it's not a need for you guys, but it takes hours every year to get those bills put together and mailed, hours and hours. And
Mailed to the correct address.
I don't feel that it's a need for me as a tax collector to do volunteer work for the district. I think that I should be reimbursed for the work that I do. So I think the 50-cent fee for each bill mailed is really reasonable.
Also, we don't understand the last part. It will be even less if we continue to provide envelopes. Could you please, somebody please explain to us what that means?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
The last thing on your proposal, the very last sentence says, it will be even less if we continue to provide the envelopes. What does that mean? Can anybody?
Well, I can tell you right now, it was taken, when you first presented that to us, it was also taken into consideration that you guys were going to provide the envelopes.
No.
So the district currently provides the envelopes that are already stamped.
That's correct.
You telling us you're asking for 50 cents based on your time is different than the way it was presented to the district.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I thought, maybe
Yeah.
it was a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
The district has always provided the envelopes.
Correct,
And the
yes.
borough and the county do that as well.
Correct.
So it wasn't,
Yeah, we were just.
it wasn't asking you to pay for
Yeah.
envelopes, you already do that.
Yeah, and I can tell you, like, that's the way it was taken internally by
Yes.
all stakeholders.
Okay, all right.
So you're asking for 50 cents. I just want to make sure I understand. You're asking for 50 cents because of the time it takes.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right. Do you have anything that you would like to ask us? Do you agree that it's been 8 years since we've had any raises?
Okay, Barb.
And they're sure that there are other people, teachers and staff workers that get raises, every year, and we've gone already 8 years without any increase in pay.
I do want to say that I appreciate this item, total potential cost difference. It wouldn't be this extreme, because there's no way. I mean, the whole economy is going to collapse. If my 712 parcels don't pay their school tax, so you're not going to be ever paying me $2 for 712 parcels. I can't even imagine. If everybody in the district just didn't pay their taxes, it would be a nightmare. But, so yeah, I had 52 not pay this year. So instead of being reimbursed $52, I'd be reimbursed $104. And the reason we're asking for that is because when someone doesn't pay, it actually causes more work for us, because we have extra reports to do at the end of the year. Plus, we have already sent them another mailing as a courtesy reminder. So, we've done more work and are getting $1.
And the reminders we have to do, that's a law. We have to send those reminders out, which again, as she said, is more work. Then, of course, you've got to write those up that don't pay, turn them over. They're more work than than somebody that pays.
I want to say, I'll tell you the same thing I told the county commissioners. Nobody gets paid what they think they're worth, okay? Everybody gets paid less than what they think they're worth. But I think the tax collectors are worth much more than what we've been receiving. And I know, for instance, in the borough, I collected this year $1,661,000 for the district. And I was paid before taxes less than $2,700. It doesn't seem equitable to me. It just doesn't. When you're dealing with that kind of money, it's really time consuming. It just is. So we're hoping that you will agree. And this won't happen in 2025. This will be in 2026. And we need to know so that we can decide what we're going to do about running, what our compensation will be. So.
On that subject, I just want to clarify, ladies, correct me if I'm wrong, you can only make this request once every 4 years when it's an election year, correct?
That is
Yes,
correct.
Okay, and it has to be decided now, because if not, the window passes. This can't be pushed to another meeting.
By February 15th, we need to
Yeah.
know. Okay?
Can we have your names, please? I know you're Kenny Park.
Okay. Connie Lawrence.
Got that? Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else in public comment?
Y'all know who I am. Looking in the book, there's some conferences. There's 2 employees going to the same conference, same time, but the mileage rate is different on their forms. And can anybody explain to me on page 48 what the Jewel settlement is? Page 70, Guthrie Clinic, says 2425 ambulance for football, $21,000. I've never seen a Guthrie ambulance at our football stadium. Is that for the doctor to be here for the 5 games? Because on page 77, Tunkhannock ambulance is for football games is $450. Then on page 77, there's a bill in there for a tennis ball machine. Is that run by electricity? Can anybody tell me? Because when you did the tennis courts over, they took away the electric that run the old machine. It was just totally wiped out and buried, the electric. Hopefully it's shut off and locked out, tagged out properly. And I talked to a former board member the other night. I happened to see him in town. And he said during his time, the tennis courts were redone 3 times. So this makes 4 times they've been done over. And I've got pictures. It's not pretty how it was done over. And like I said before, do we have receipts of what they did with the fence? Do we have receipts of the disposal of all that $40-some thousand? And because when they did some work around the front of the high school this year, there, what they dug up is where they had put in the fill from the tennis courts from previously working on them. That's pretty much what I have for this part, but I got some for later. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Bill. Anybody else? Okay, we move on. Enrollments, number 5, are in your packet, pages 7 and 8 for your review. Item 6, approval of minutes, both meetings of December 5th, the reorganization and the public rec session. We have a motion to approve. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckert? Mrs. Eckert? Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Osherek?
Yes.
Dr. Favola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
you.
Mr. Richter, is Mrs. Eckert still on?
Yeah, she's muted.
Okay. Mrs. Eckert, Director Eckert, you're muted, and we're trying to take your vote.
I am so sorry. I was trying to look at the agenda, and I could not get back to my thing. I'm back on. Sorry, yes. Approve the board minutes. Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Paula.
Thank you.
Business and finance reports. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
In a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Osherek?
Yes.
Dr. Favola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Okay, superintendent's report.
Superintendent's report, how about I'm going to recommend a resolution be adopted approving the personnel report as presented. I would like to ask to change 2 things on the report that were clerical in nature. I'm asking the board to consider these changes as well. Under Samantha McConnell, I'm asking the board to consider appointing for our Family and Consumer Science position, that she should actually be on Bachelor's Step 2, not Bachelor's Step 1. And on the second page with the coaching appointments, Jason Wisnowski is actually being appointed to the boys' junior high track, not the girls. So I'm asking the board to consider the personnel report with those 2 changes.
We have a motion.
Motion to approve
We have
with
a-
changes.
We have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second for the report as correct, as changed. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Osherek?
Yes.
Dr. Favola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
I would also like to congratulate Tracy Craigle. She will be retiring at the end of this school year, and we just, as part of the personnel report, we just approved her retirement. So congratulations, Mrs. Craigle, on a great career, and you will definitely be missed next year.
Thank you. Item 2, conferences.
I'd like to recommend a resolution be adopted approving the conference attendance as follows.
There, A through H. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Osherek?
Yes.
Dr. Favola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Thank you. Committee reports. Paul, did you want a committee meeting?
We are most likely going to be scheduling as long as the board allows me to, that we will be scheduling a transportation committee meeting before our February board meeting to discuss how we fund our transportation contracts.
Okay. At the end of the meeting, we're getting the updated committee assignments.
That's correct.
Perhaps we discuss it then?
We certainly can, but I mean, as long as the board's okay with a transportation committee meeting next February, I'm not sure we would have to discuss it. If I just go ahead and schedule it before the February meeting on the same evening.
Yeah,
So if the
coordinate
board's
with those.
okay with that, I'll just move ahead and do that.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
I can tell you, I'm sorry I didn't send that to Carolyn to include this today. At a minimum, I can tell you that Phil is going to be chairing the Transportation Committee.
Okay.
I don't have the
so-
list with me, I'm in St. Louis, but I do know that Phil will be chairing that committee.
Okay, so Chairman Farr, are you okay with scheduling a transportation committee meeting in February?
Okay, do that if you would. All right, unfinished business. Proposal from Wyoming County Tax Collectors Association to increase their compensation. And I believe recommendations from the administration have been to approve the $4.50 per real estate parcel collected.
I think certainly we're open to any motion. We're certainly not against this, right? I don't want anybody to think what we are, but I just want to point out that, the way that we calculated what the increase was, and I'll let Dr. Suppan speak into details, but we think that this increase will be approximately $15,000 to $18,000 annually. We put out worst case scenarios would be 30, but we think it would be more of about $15,000 to $18,000. For instance, last year in total, we spent about $52,000, including postage, including envelopes and everything. With the increase, we would figure that would be at about $70,000 or $71,000.
And that was not including the 50 cent per envelope, correct?
Correct. Yeah, correct. The way it was taken internally is what I stated earlier, that, they wanted 50 cents per envelope. We currently pay for that. The numbers that are here, total parcels, we have 11,388 parcels. So it's definitely hard work. It's acknowledged. It doesn't go unnoticed. The numbers we gave here were based off totality, 100% collection, because they differ every year. So we're estimating based on installments, full payments, things like that. The last raise was 2018. So that when you're looking at these numbers, this would be as if all was collected, or if all were in installments, or if nobody paid. So just to give you a realistic look at what the total difference would be. But again, when we look at it, we break it down, we have a 93% collection rate, which is good. Realistically, we think 15K, worst case 18K. But they are correct, last raise was 2018.
And I'll just point out to the board, and I'm certainly not against this, but we're going to have a challenging budget. I mean, there's no question that that's going to be a hot topic come April. And we have, multiple parties, multiple vendors that are asking for an increase. So I think there's decisions that are going to be made along the way, and certainly this is one of them. And I don't want to disparage anything that they do, because I see the value in it. But it does play into a bigger picture as well.
Thank you.
But certainly we would entertain a motion from the board.
Okay, do we have a motion for particular increase?
I make a motion for the increase, including the 50 cents.
Is
So the
there-
requested increase plus, the 50 cent, to include that 50 cents.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to include the 50 cents.
So that will add another
$5,000.
$5,600. So the
Yeah, and this would be effective in 2026.
Yeah, so the 15 to 18 that we project that it would cost,
Now becomes
if
20 to
we're going to
23.
pay for the envelope, add on another $5,600 to that.
And that is exact, because right now it's zero. So the 50 cents would be exactly the $5,694 added on to whatever it is.
Do you know what the total spending is for all tax collectors in total?
I don't have
I
that.
just don't know, I just wonder what the percentage increase was.
Like I could tell you though, like for instance, like last year for the cost of the envelopes and postage, our cost on that alone was like $6,000. In previous years, it was higher or lower depending on, what went out. So, essentially our postage rate, the way I look at it, or the handling of the envelopes, is going to double.
Right.
It's going from 6 to 12.
Any other discussion? No, hearing none. Roll call, please.
Dr. Osherek?
Yes.
Dr. Pravola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
No.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
No.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Okay, passes.
Yes.
All right. On the new business. Item 1, right to know listings. Item 2 is visa account for your information, as well as item 3, the summary of the teacher substitute fill rate. Item 4, motion to approve a revised school calendar, making Monday, March 10th a staff in service day.
Motion to approve?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Do you want any comment, Paul?
This is, if you recall, we had a snow day earlier this school year, and instead of making it up as a full student day, we're making it up as a staff-only day because we do have enough instructional hours that it would not have to be made up for students. So there, we're not going to extend their school year or change their school calendar. This is solely a day added for staff to meet our contractual obligations.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Pravola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Osherek?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion 5 is a motion to approve agreements with colleges and universities, Walden University, University of Scranton, Johnson College. Motion 6, agreement with Beacon Specialized Living to provide workforce training for students with special needs. 7 is approve the high school course catalog. And 8 is a 30-day review of the draft special education plan. Can we take these all together? Okay, do we have a motion to take those?
Motion.
A second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on any of those?
I just had a question. Where's Walden University?
It's actually an accredited online university.
Oh. Okay.
I think it was Holly. Okay, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. Osherek?
Yes.
Dr. Pravola?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes,
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
thank you. Item 9, motion to approve a memorandum of understanding with the Tunkhannock Area Education Association for A, esports coach, and B, credit recovery liaison. We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second. Holly.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
Yeah, Paul, for the esports, is that a year-round thing? Is the competition in the spring, in the fall? Can you talk a little bit to that?
Absolutely. They go year-round. It's almost like, so this stipend would be for all year, but they actually play different seasons like sports seasons. So in the fall, it's one game. In the winter, it's a different game. In the spring, it's a third game. And they do compete throughout the course of the entire school year. What I love about this is this targets another group of students that historically are not involved in a lot of other extracurricular activities. And we always want our school and our community to be a place where there's something for everyone. And this esports team, we've been very competitive. Quite honestly, we win a lot, and that's certainly not the reason, but the kids are here multiple days a week with an advisor, and we would like to formally recognize that position.
So is the e-coach going to be in the extracurricular addendum?
Yes, we're gonna treat that almost like more of an advisor than a sports coach.
Right. And then the credit recovery liaison is going to be within not the extracurricular, co-curricular section, or that will be?
I'm not sure how exactly that'll fit into the next contract, but the credit recovery liaison, just so you know, certainly the public can understand, this will give our students an opportunity that need additional credits for graduation, the opportunity to get those credits, and quite frankly, it's significantly cheaper than the programs we had been operating in the past. But we want to create every opportunity, every pathway for our students to make sure that we get them across the stage in 4 years.
And then the dollar amounts are for the per year, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Paul, the credit recovery, that's only for the high school level, correct? Like that only affects the program?
We are going to run credit recovery at grades, obviously for high school credits, 9, 10, 11, 12. This will also cover summer remediation for students that are not successful in grades 6, 7, and 8. So that will also be part of this.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
That was a great question. We can't call that part credit recovery because they don't get credits. But
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Dr. Pravola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Item 10, motion to approve Stevens, Katz, and Williams for their standard agreement for fees, costs, and expenses for legal representation of the district. We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Is that the old guy that sits at the table there? Is that the?
that's him. He's sitting to my right, and I will point out that there is no increase in hourly rate or fees for this agreement.
Very good.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Dr. Pravola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Thank you. Item 11, motion to approve, renew a 3-year agreement with Debt Books at a cost of $36,750. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Dr. Pravola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Item 12, motion to approve overnight field trips for PA Skills and All Eastern Course.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Dr. Pravola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Item 13, motion to approve applications for payment to D&M Construction for door and hardware replacement, and number 14, payment for access ramps at the Tiger House, cost of $167,000. Can we put those two together?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion.
Do we have a motion for those?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I'll just point out on 13, that is a contractual obligation, and certainly if you wanted to answer any questions on that, John Shapolsky can, but that's for the door replacement projects that we've been doing, throughout our buildings. The next one, the motion to approve Tiger House ramps. Certainly everybody knows our Tiger House is where some of our most at-risk students are educated, and quite frankly, we have to start making some investments to make that, state-of-the-art and make sure it's accessible. The ramps are totally breaking down, and the substructures are totally breaking down. Dr. Suppan went to battle with the state a little bit, and we got our medical access funds. We'll be covering that. So that's not coming from our general budget at all. At first, they said no, and he did not accept that answer. But certainly it's a great investment in their aluminum and the sub base, and everything's going to be taken care of. So this is actually a pretty long-term solution for the ramps at Tiger House.
I appreciate the administration looking for other funding whenever we have a possibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just to add, the doors too, remember a good chunk of that was grant funded through 2 different grants, Safe Schools and PCCD, so you're looking at those numbers.
Awesome. Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Dr. Pravola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Item 15, motion to approve a vehicle donation to the automotive program from Alice Price. Is this the widow of Ken Price?
I'm sorry?
Is this the widow
It
of
is.
Ken Price?
I don't know
Oh,
the
it is. It is.
Okay.
Yep,
All right.
there you go. I would just, before you even make the motion, Mrs. Price came to the high school the other day. I happened to be here, came in and spoke to Mrs. Wood and said, hi. She came to the door and said, hi, I'd like to donate a car to the automotive department. And we were like, excuse me? Come on in. Come on in. But it's like a 2011 Lincoln, and it operates, and she wants to donate it to our students to work on, and then do with it as we see fit. But that's very generous of her, and we would ask the board to accept it, and I can't thank her enough.
She and her late husband were very loyal to local merchants in the area. I knew them well. I know her well.
Yeah.
Fine folks. We have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Pervola?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Item 16 is the first reading of board policies as listed. Items A through J. 17, motion to approve van and bus contracts as presented. Do we have a motion for that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Dr. O'Sherrick?
Yes.
Dr. Pervola?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Next item is item 18, solar project update.
Yeah,
Doctor.
I think I see solar in my nightmares, but we're getting pretty close, to really this thing taking and the construction happening. So kind of where we're at right now, we're in a great spot. I met with SRE, Solar Renewable Energy, in Greenworks, maybe a week or two ago. I asked them kind of what's the update, and they told me when I signed the applications to Penelec, it's going to be a slow process. But we're in a great spot with the land development. We only need the permits for the roof raise, which they don't see an issue with. I do have a scoping call on January 22nd with Penelec, and that will kind of tell us the process, kind of where they're at with the grid and the applications. So that's a big call, and I'll know a lot more then. The structural stuff, they talk to our roofing warranty companies, and we should be good to go. They know what they have to do to maintain our warranties on our roofs, which is huge. Since a big part of our project is roof-based with the 10% incline, which is going to be pretty much invisible to the eye as you walk campus. One of the biggest things that came out of that last meeting for me, because when I initially started these conversations with the board, was the gross domestic product 10% tax credit didn't exist really. It does now. And there's a strong belief we'll qualify for that 10% tax credit, which is huge. Now, it's important to understand, though, the panels we were originally getting were from overseas, were cheaper. So the cost of the panels will go up. So it will be a little bit more to the project. So if it's a 10% credit, realistically, we'll net about a 5% cash flow in the green. But it's still to the positive. It's still good, and that's huge. So instead of a 40% tax credit, we're maybe looking at a 45, which is great. So that's huge. There's a strong belief with that. Again, we're hoping to have the switch turned on. I'm hoping the scoping call goes good. The goal still is to have the switch flipped 1/1/26. That's when our direct energy contract runs out. They still believe as long as there's no crazy snafus with Penelec, that's realistic. So everything's good. I'll have much more of an update on after the 22nd with my scoping call, which I'll be on with Penelec, Solar Renewable Energy, Greenworks, and I'll also have our liaisons from our engineering firm there. And then one other thing I want to add is our Moody score went up, which is our financial rating, which is huge. We went from what did we go from A2 to A1, and pretty much all that is though, it's big for us because we have to take out a note, an obligation note or a bond, we get a better rate. So that just means we're doing well financially in the business office, and that's a big deal for the district.
That reflects excellent financial management on part of the administration.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Can you repeat that, please? I had asked Dr. Suppan to give us a solar update just because we haven't spoken of it. We went from talking about it every month for about a year and a half to not speaking about it for the last few months, but there's been so much happening behind the scenes. So they came in, they assessed all of our buildings and making sure we could handle what's going to happen electricity-wise and infrastructure-wise. And now, like he said, it's with Penelec. The other part I will add to this is we've also applied for the state grant that the state is now offering as part of their budget package last year. So we're probably, hopefully, going to qualify for a $300,000 grant from the state to help us offset the cost of this. And when Dr. Suppan referenced, instead of 40% credit, we're going to get a 45% credit. Like, we're talking about the difference between $4 million and $4.5 million. Like, that extra 5% is the equivalent of $500,000. So if that comes to fruition, that's outstanding. You tack on another $300,000 that we might get through that grant, I think we have a very strong chance of getting that grant. We're upwards of $5 million back on this project that'll ultimately almost end up paying for itself. So we're very happy with where we're going. Right now, it's going to be, kind of hurry up and wait. So, to see how, because now Penelec's infrastructure has to be assessed.
Yeah, and I mean, if we get $5 million, that's huge, because the quicker we pay off the system and we produce our own electricity, true producers, there's an estimated cash flow that previously didn't exist of $900,000, $1 million, which is
every year.
Yeah, huge for the
that's
district.
huge.
So to potentially possibly have 50% of the project immediately paid for is big.
Awesome.
Because we had committed to putting $2 million down of our own out of a approximate $10 million. So we're down to $8 million. And if we get a $5 million project like this is going to pay for itself exceptionally quickly.
Yeah.
And like he said, this could free up $800,000, $900,000 a year. Right now we pay about $1 million, $1.2 million in electricity.
That's over $3 million a year.
That's great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Holly, committee appointments, do you want to send those to us by email?
Yes, I will. I have it written down at home, and I just left town before I sent it where I needed it to go,
So we'll get those by email. Thank you.
Yep.
And your packets, board members, you have the LIU 18 election ballots. If you'd fill those out and get those to Carolyn, we appreciate it. Next item, any additional public comments?
Well, just my normal. We had 2 former employees pass away in this last month. Bill Doherty, he was an English teacher when I first came in high school, and Lori Kitchnefsky, she was a custodian. Now, a couple things I missed in the first part. Paul, there's a thing for you there in the back. They didn't put all the letters in your name on the one page. You caught that?
I got it.
And those seminars, it's not just 2 people. The first several seminars are 1 mileage rate, and the last batch are a different mileage rate. So, and some of them were turned in the same day, so I don't know how it comes that there's 2 different mileage rates. I appreciate you helping the tax collectors out. You just don't know the work they put in. My mother was a tax collector for 30-plus years. In 2 months, she'll be gone 9 years. She did that right up till the day she passed. And how they work with each other. You don't know how people are moving throughout the community, and they work with each other, so you get that money. Let's see. I talked to Rich about a little over a year ago. You had set up a safety security meeting for the public, and it was canceled. Basically, I was the only one here that night. Is it ever going to get rescheduled? I'm trying to think what else I had. There's other things, but I'd like to, at some point, get some answers to some of these questions we've been asking. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Any other comments? Yeah, seeing none? A motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.